Hello guys and welcome to another TF only video. It's Alex here and I want to talk about a few things today. I'm gonna first talk about how to play as Korean mid so people can actually understand and comprehend how to play and why to, why things are happening. So first of all is Korean. Hang on, I need to change this. If we do Korean mid laners, right? How do they play? Well, first, they actually think about the champions and the matchups and how it's really important to them. Then they value the HP and the mana ratios in game. By this I mean is there's a fundamental people need to know how people are trading and as to why. And why you can't explain everything or coach in game as to why things are happening. For example, if Oriana runs at you and throws her Q and W, you need to recognize that time window that you might be able to fake it and actually make her proc it by running back and forth in lane and making her toss it out and miss. But once the trade is given, you can actually either trade back, you can proceed to lane manipulate because the minions will be pulled aggro and the wave will slowly come pushing into you. You can also use that time window to CS with her abilities being on cooldown. And I think a lot of people are playing incorrectly, and that's why people are dying a lot 1v1, and why TF can 1v1 solo 1v1 solo kill opponents. Because how Koreans play is not dependent on of how good you are. They're playing on how bad opponents are. This means the mistakes they make. So if you show a time window where you're sidestepping wrong, you're CSing the wrong minion, you're standing too close or something, people will poke you down in Korea without any given further notice. It's just fundamentally there. I played a few games in for example in gold with 300 ping. I stopped on that Smurf account because of the over 300 ping. I had I believe 330. It made the W selection impossible. But what people need to understand is as soon as they hit level 2 or they did something, even in gold, they would poke you and use their champions accordingly to a proper and high level. And how Koreans approach the game is it doesn't matter how good you are, because at a certain extent you play more based on how your opponent is if you don't have a lane dominant champion. So for example, me and Dopa, because I honestly don't really care for any other TF. They haven't really shown they can play the champion or the game. But people do way too many mistakes. And on TF, you should never be able to solo kill your opponent, yet it happens. Why? Because, for example, there was a video both me and LS uploaded, Faker versus Dopa. Faker was playing Talon. As soon as Dopa saw that Faker was watching minimap, with how he was clicking, he went in and poked him about 1/3 of his health as TF on the Talon. And that's not something that should happen because Faker just finished clearing the ward and he looked away 1 second towards the minimap. And the trade happened. So how you should approach the lane as a mid laner or as TF, nonetheless, is gonna be really simple. In level 1, you start something called cold reading. It means you're analyzing your opponent. And by this, you're analyzing how they're standing, how they are CSing, autoing, and how they use their skills. Also how they are moving slash clicking. And by this, it's basically the essential on how good your opponent is already given from level 1. This gives you a certain information, right? So if you were playing against Ari, for example, and she Qs the wave, what happens is the lane is gonna shove, and she wants to shove you in because she's not focused on you, she's focused on shoving in the wave. Whereas if she's holding her Q for when you walk into the ranged and then she's doing it both, then she's both looking for a time window to shove but also poke you. But if she's only trying to poke you at all given times when her Qs are up, regardless of your position relative to the minions, that means she's always gonna be playing on the aggressive end. So she's always gonna maximize her mana onto damage rather than lane manipulation. And if she does none of those three I mentioned, she's basically a passive garbage player. And that's how you start analyzing your opponent, because it's really simple. So how you walk into lane and you play against LeBlanc or some champion, you start looking how close they are to the minions, how far they are to the minions. How do they use their abilities? Do they go in to poke you whenever it's up? Do they go in to poke you when the minion wave is set? Or is it still setting up? What the minions are auto attacking, like everything has with fundamentals to do. How you lane manipulate and do everything. But people fail to understand how hard it is to explain something that you can view with your eye for visible things. So after this, when you go level 1 and you start analyze your opponent, you get an image of their strength. No, like an image of how good of a player they are, right? This image, it doesn't change unless they show something to change it. By this, I mean if a player has shown you the tendency that favors he's always gonna charm to the left, or he's always gonna go in and combo you whenever his spells are up, you can set and assume that tendency persists throughout the entire lane phase until they show another side of it. Usually why they would change it are two simple reasons. No, are actually three. It can be a few reasons actually. One reason, jungler is nearby. It means that they're in a position to get killed. Then they wouldn't go for the trade if they have that information. That's a tendency you can then see to ping your jungler that it's worth it if you missed, or that he's just wasting his time. The other reason would be enemy jungler is nearby. That means you're about to get ganked. The reason she's not poking you is for you to come forth and screw up. For you to come and die yourself. So she's shifting her tendencies from being passive aggressive or more aggressive as a player to ultra passive to bring you out. That means if you're actually not reading your opponent properly, you will die in lane because you're an idiot. That's essentially what it means. And people play off this really carefully. Then the third reason is you actually you showed something to push her off, or you showed that you can actually deal with her. So she has assumed a lane, more a lane maintain. She's assumed a more mind to lane rather than play the opponent. Because playing mid lane isn't playing the game. It's playing your jungler, enemy jungler, relative vision, how everyone is roaming and doing, possible roams, but furthermost, it's playing the minion wave and your opponent. It's both of them. Like, it's not that you're playing against LeBlanc. You're playing against your wave, her wave, and the champion, but also the player. And people need to realize what they're playing against and how good the player is on the champion. And if you don't do that, it's just something odd. And then the fourth scenario is she's waiting to set up a kill on you. So she's waiting for you to screw up or position differently. So she's more observant and thinking her next play through. If she hasn't changed her tendencies altogether to shift to a more lenient one. Tendencies don't change. As soon as you analyze your opponent, they rarely change. When I've judged a player being bad, they stay bad throughout the entire game until someone feeds them. But why they change then is because they actually have the gold to do something. It's very simple. So how Korean mid laners play is they analyze their opponent and then they punish mistakes. That's all they do. It doesn't matter if you're good as a player, because if you judge a LeBlanc as a TF, right? If she plays up to, I don't know, 60, 70% correctly on that champion, you're not facing LeBlanc. There's no way you're facing a LeBlanc that's within the 60-70% range. This is not a champion. It's a shit player. So when you smurf and you see a player actually being bad, whether it's in high diamond or gold or platinum, if he doesn't play the lane or the champion properly, you're not supposed to be afraid of the champion, because he's shit. So when I judge someone who does poorly on TF, he eats my cues. He has no intention of lane manipulating versus me. So I can play the lane however I want. I can shove it, I can freeze it, and I can maintain and CS perfectly every single minute of the game. That means he has no pressure on me. He's not trying to poke me down or do anything. Sometimes he pushes it in, sometimes he tries a mini freeze, and I can use it to fake behind a wall that I'm recalling, that I'm roaming, and the idiot will push the wave. That means he's shit. So when I've judged that, I can play the lane and farm if I want to. But if he hits the Qs and take poor trades, it means he's even more abusable. Because he's not gonna realize that a TF is gonna 1v1 kill him. Because no one is gonna respect that possibility. And that's how Korean players play. They don't play off them being good if they're not on a lane dominant champion. If they're on an even matchup or an inferior matchup, they play off their opponent's mistakes and capitalizes on them. After you finish analyzing your opponent, that she likes to Q and W every time she has it up on LeBlanc, or she likes to toss Q on Ari, You walk up in the lane and then you combo them. Your ranged minions will attack them. I mean the LeBlanc, not Ahri in this scenario. The Ahri, you can walk up, you can dodge her Q because they're mostly center point on you, and then you combo with your W and Q, you auto ones and you leave. Is she gonna W you? No, you're already out of range. Is she gonna Q you? You just sidestepped it. And she didn't think you'd go forward for a trade. Is she gonna E you? You're behind minions. There's no point in her trading. So if you can predict when she's gonna toss the spell to trade 1v1, you can slowly set up kills because you know you're against a shit player. You're not against the champion. The champion isn't played like that. As soon as Ahri tosses Q, she should move back. She shouldn't stay or move forward unless there's a jungler there. Especially when she's not 6. Or if she has to respect your minions or positioning. In level 2, if she hits it before you, she can do it. Because she has 90 more HP. If you stay, there's a chance you get charmed. She has more damage threshold to trade onto you that you can trade back with the combined wave. So there's no point for you not to run to your turret if she hits level 2 first. Just wait for the next wave reset, and at level 3 or 4 you can slowly set up kills on a lot of the champions that are being played. The only champions that are really hard on TF are the champions like Azir, Victor, Orianna, because actually Zoe too. Because how do you gain range? You go up, you get poked. You're not supposed to do that. So it's better for you to farm. But sorry. If they eat the Q, they die. No, they lose their HP slowly, and maybe you can set something up if they're really bad. And with a lot of TF players, they don't recall at good timings. In Korea, if you play properly, you can probably always recall at 1100 for a catalyst, if you want to, on TF. But for me, I don't care about recalling that late. I usually recall earlier, because people don't recall. So I come back with a stronger buy, I make them stay in lane, and I kill them. It's not something impressive that I do, I analyze them, I push the wave when they're doing something retarded, like they're warding or they wanna poke me. So I do 2 Qs at level 4 with the red card, all the ranged minions die. I then Q one more time on the melee ones. I miss one on purpose and I recall. The next wave is gonna be cannon minion in level 4. I will have a dark seal and maybe a ruby crystal. I'll come back to lane. They're still around. They can't push the cannon minion wave. So when they recall, they miss automatically a wave now. And I'm gonna hit 6 soon, within a few waves. So either they can force me to stay or go back and reset themselves, but if they do, I will have the items to beat them. It's how you play. So once you start analyzing your opponent, it doesn't change much from how they're playing, because people have something called tendencies and patterns. So if they show you something, you can most of the time assume that they will keep that pattern. And if they do, you just wait for the mistakes and abuse them. That's all there is. Like, it sounds maybe harder or simpler than it is, but that's just how you do it. If you're really smart, you just abuse. You don't overplay, because what's the worst thing that can happen on TF? They poke you and you can't lane manipulate while they freeze. You're fucked. But if you can maintain the wave and you can maintain an even amount of CS, you scale better on your passive. You can roam, you can help your team. So theoretically, you're at a better stage almost every point in the game until they outscale you. But by that point, if you have 200 CS, you usually have a 1k extra gold from your passive, plus the gold you have acquired from roams. So in low elo, if you just analyze and punish your opponent and CS properly, you automatically win because you have 2 items more than your opponent. So it's hard to lose when you're smurfing on him, even though he's supposed to be really bad. So when you judge a player to be within this range or lower, you can just go ahead and kill them. I can probably kill any player that isn't 90% at least on their champion. Even arguably more. Because being being 99%, being like 99, this is what you should strive for. This is the number you should try and aim for. If you have 100%, you're scripting. You can't play 100% correctly on a champion. It's not possible. But if if you're within this range, even though it's a few percentage left, that means there's something I can abuse. That means you're playing up to a certain style. If you're playing this, you would have more mistakes, and I would abuse you based on those mistakes you make. If you have this percentage on a champion, I will abuse you on your patterns and pattern and tendencies, because you'll probably be really used to play a certain way. So how you abuse a player that's this good on a champion and this good on a champion, it's different. It's different how you play and lane against these players. And it doesn't matter what rank they are, because the rank correlates more to how good of a player they are both inside and outside the game, more than the lane itself. The lane is just how much gold you can get. And if you can get a lot and shut the opponent down, you can maybe shut down an entire player on their team for the rest of the game, or solo carry. But theoretically, it's a tool to go and get gold for team fights and then play split pushing or team fights based on what you drafted. So how Korean plays, they're just really smart with champion matchups, and they calculate everything: HP, mana traits, how bad people are, how good they are, and then they punish the mistakes. You walk up to take a CS versus Orianna, you're gonna get QW in Korea. If you don't get QW, he's boosted. So you analyze what are their patterns. Do you walk up? She's gonna toss the QW. You can bait that. The next is basically analyzing them. You know, like I said on Dari, how does she play the wave? Does she Q it? Does she Q you? And then you get the image of how good they are. Are they really good or aren't they? Then you judge based on how they change. You can analyze differently, because instead of cold reading, it becomes something called warm reading. You've gotten to know your opponent. Warm reading is, I think in real life, it takes 5 minutes. So if you play against your opponent for 5 minutes, you should know how good they are on the champion, how they wanna play the rest of the game, how good they are at solo killing you, unless they've shown you something differently. Even if they're not level 6, you can assume on how they will play even when they get level 6, based on what they have shown you throughout the entire wave, like that I've been talking about. So it's just that simple. And yeah, that's basically how Koreans play. They just analyze their opponent, and whether they judge you to be different, they'll play to you to abuse if they know you're this range. If you're this range, they will respect you and they will abuse certain aspects. But if you're this good, the lane should be really hard to play. Both of players should be doing proper traits and proper back and forths with their champions. The Faker versus Dopa when he played against Faker on Talon. Faker judges Dopa perfectly. He knows he can't do shit to him because of how Dopa positions, so he starts shoving the wave. And that Dopa only finds like a few poke opportunities because Faker doesn't let him either. So the lane itself was really even, but Dopa had the better team that game and he won. It's really simple how you play in mid lane and how you analyze people. I don't know if this clarifies it up or if it confuses people more. But I'm gonna talk about something else, which is Dopa released a talk video, I think it's called, where he talks, right? I know it's talking video, but I think it said talk video on, so that's why I'm gonna keep it, even if it might be incorrect, because it's translation, and I respect him and his translate for at least bringing the work. And Dopa said in a quote, it's hard to teach someone how to play and Lanephase properly. What? And by this, he mean the first part is it's too complex. So he acknowledged that the game is complex, and we're talking about the best solo queue player in the world. And he says it has a lot to do with psychology. These are the two terms, or at least this one. I've said it's a lot hard to play, a few things and explain, which makes it complex. I've been using this indirectly, but this one I've used all the time. And lane manipulation, he said he can teach anyone because he has his own secrets, but he's not gonna do that and reveal because then people will know how to play and beat him, and it will take too long to actually teach because he has so many ways to lane manipulate. If I were to explain all the ways you can lane manipulate, the video would probably be, fucking added 1 hour just based on lane manipulation as well. But I'm not playing serious versus uh, diamonds. I'm only gonna do lane manipulation in higher elo when I judge I need to do it. If not, I'm gonna try to abuse my opponent. That's how it is. So he talked about it being psychology and complex, and he said it's hard to teach someone because it's a lot psychological how you play the game. So if you can't judge that the game is psychological based on how you analyze your opponent, like I said in the previous section, you can't understand the complexity it goes through someone's mind when they're playing it. Why he's sidestepping, why he's clicking that way, why he's CSing, why he's tossing his spells. It's too much information that you can't explain when you're playing. And you can't get into the opponent's head sometimes as why they're doing certain things. Because what makes sense to you doesn't make sense to them. It's their own truth on how they play and how they reach that point where you're actually pinned against them, right? So it's just hard. Another thing Dopa talks about is, hang on, I'm trying to think of the first thing. I'm actually lost. What did you say before it? Give me a second. Uh, I can't actually remember it. I need to check it. Oh yeah, okay. He talks about a traditional wisdom, meaning, and he said it's to work hard. Working hard doesn't get you anywhere necessarily. Why? It has no guarantee. He hates this word, and I agree because I hate it too. Working hard is a joke. Because Dopa said in his entire life, a lot of it had to do with luck, which will be the next thing I will talk about. Um, Luck correlates with more than working hard. If you work hard, you can sharpen, the sword you have been dealt with. If you get a rusty ass sword that you're told that you should sharpen or fix, right? Working hard can only get you so far to actually sharpening it to a proper level. But at some point, you're gonna be forced to rely on other variables being luck. So working hard, it has no guarantee. And he explained that he doesn't like working hard except that he's forced himself to play at least one game of League every day. Even when he's sick or tired, or he doesn't feel like it, he's playing at least one game wherever he is. And that's the only working hard ethic. Because he said in the video that his entire league career, he's been playing really hard, but he doesn't see it as hard working to a large extent, even though it is hard working because he's put in the hours, right? And he's got accredited for them. He reached that point he wanted to. But he kept playing League because he kept winning and being good at it. So it was his natural talent, he said. And then when he thought more deeply about the game is when he became even better. And he started being there, every time consistently, not just from being really good the first time around. So he said the only work hard part was him putting at least one game in per day. And he said, why wouldn't you keep playing League if you keep winning? It's fucking fun, right? You keep winning games. That's his own words. He actually said it's fucking fun. Why would you stop playing if you keep winning? And for me, I will go later and I feel the same way. If I kept winning games, it would be fun. But I struggle a lot because of how teammates are playing and variables. And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about is luck, with a few things Dopa mentioned. So he mentioned units of luck, which was funny. So he wrote the luck, I don't know, like a few times, right? And then he would remove them and say, I still got lucky this amount of times. For me, I can only remember one time I was lucky in my life, and it was when I won a bike when I was 9 or 10. The rest, I always reached the peak, whether it was academics to be the best student in school, uh, to play at the highest rank at any game. I automatically reached it because I was good or smart, and I used a lot of my mind and how I thought about aspects of life in itself to reach to that point. So I didn't rely on luck. But even Dopa said that without luck in League, there's just so much you can do. You can get four shit teammates, but there's no point in talking to them, he said, which is okay. I admit, I talk a lot to my team. I flame lately more than I should, but it's just me being frustrated because I really want to win. Because I know my luck is zero, and I don't have any units of luck, as he said it to be. And it just feels horrible because even if Dopa, no, I mean, even Dopa, I mean, not if, the if should be removed. Even Dopa recognizes how the luck part affects games. So how can people tell me there's something to improve on when things aren't going my way? So the thing about me is I've been playing I've been playing League since season 2. In season 2, I reached something called this MMR. This was, I don't know, high plat maybe equivalent, but it wasn't something too impressive because I only played like 2-3 months and I played other games. In season 3, I reached Diamond 1. This was Challenger in season 3. Because there were only 50 slots. So if you were a Diamond 1 player, you're a Challenger. Ever since season 3 onwards to season 8, I, ha I have better win rate and stats versus Masters and Challengers. Yet, I haven't reached Challenger once, but I have better win rate versus them. So, what I'm trying to say, my luck, it feels like I have negative, I don't know, 200% luck. Because every time I queue up and try to play the game in High Diamond or Master, I get 4 teammates that either feed or int. And this makes the game unplayable, no matter how good I get. I remember, no, I mean, no matter how good I do. I remember playing against 3 challengers and 2 masters, and they were all mid to high challengers. There was a Victor with 600 LP Victor main, who I owed to. I 2-0'd him in lane. No junglers. And it was in a meta where Victor was good. So for me to beat him, and it was 600 LP, he was really bad. Like, he was absolute trash at the game because he died to a TF solo. But I still lost the game. Why? I went, I don't know, this, but I think the team score was like, so if I have this score and the team score is this, it means I ganked. Oh, actually that can't be right. I think the team score might have been actually a bit more. I don't know, something like this, or I don't know. Because I did wrong. If I have 24 KP, how the fuck can it be 23? I had most of the KP in the game from my team, but my team were feeding hard as fuck. Like, they all had 10 deaths and barely no kills. I actually think the game was way different than this. Like, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter, like, what the score was. So my frustration with League is not how Korean players play or how good or how they do. It's when even Dopa talks about psychology and it being like complex and stuff, or working hard, and then about luck. I feel like as a player, I wanted to just put a video how you play as a Korean mid laner, and then explain some terms Dopa does, and then explain how I feel with my journey on League and why the fuck I'm frustrated. Cause I can beat challengers and masters really easily. It's carrying the 4 fucking diamond teammates that are actually killing me. If I get 4 diamond teammates, they usually feed. Like, you're not supposed to be carrying them on TF. As TF, you're supposed to help them get more fed than their opponents, but you still lose every single game. But if I smurf up to Diamond 3 on any region, I will have average over 10 kills per game on a roaming mage. But whenever I reach Master to D2, I have this, there's like an invisible barrier. And it's bad luck. And it's just crazy because how can bad luck exist to the point that whenever I'm in this rank, I have bad luck with teammates? And it just doesn't make me want to play. I can talk about every game on how you beat people. I can talk about this every game and tell why I'm doing good or bad with mic and cam. And people would probably love to see it. But this demotivates me as a player. And even Dopa talks about this in his video, in this video. He talks about these things. That it's laning is more than what people think. It's not always about work hard or luck, because it has no guarantee. So no matter how good I analyze my opponent, beat them, at the end, I'm at the mercy of this with teammates, and that's just what really frustrates me as a player. So for next season, I actually want to go to Korea. If I had the money or opportunity to go, I would pack my bags and go tomorrow for 1 to 3 months, because in this time I'm pretty sure I can get top 50 challenger. There's no doubt in 1 to 3 months I can get top 50 challenger in Korea. Why? Because my teammates actually play the game. If I'm gonna play properly mid and beat my opponent, people are gonna know how to play with a TF. They know when I'm gonna gank. They're gonna give me the blue, which is experience plus 4 minions. I don't get that a single game on Europe or North America. I never get blue buff. In Korea, in gold, when I was playing with 330 ping, they pinged me to get blue buff. In gold. In gold Korea. With 330 ping. They pinged me to get the second blue. So if your teammates already have a strong fundamental, it's really easy to play the game, because you don't have to deal with bad luck and teammates. And even if you do, you queue up, you're never gonna see those idiots again in Korea. The player base is equivalent to US. You never see someone when you play with them. But in North America, if you queue up, you get 2 free autofills per game. And in Diamond 3 Plus, you recognize, I don't know, 80% of the player base. Because after a month or something, you know everyone in D3 Plus, whether they're shit or not. And I have like 20% of them on block list to remember whether they have inted or not in all games. So at least in E West I get new players and I can carry them because they have better fundamentals. So in E West, when I play in D2 to get D1 and Master, I can get 10 kills every game. In NA, my teams feed before I can even get to the point where I can hard carry them or roam. And it's supposed to be an easier server, but I have actually worse luck on it. So even though North America is like a buffet of bad players, I can't get quick enough fed to carry them to stop the bleeding. But on E West, I can sometimes stop the bleeding or carry through the hemorrhage. But if I went to Korea, it would be so much simpler to actually reach a high rank. Players would be automatically better. So I'm sorry for the video being like, I think it's 46 minutes now, because in this video I wanted to talk how to play mid lane as a Korean, or how I play it, how you analyze, how you do everything. Then I wanted to mention the Dopa, which I did. And then I wanted to talk about myself a bit and why I'm frustrated. Because reaching Challenger isn't hard on EU West and NA. If I played for a month, I would I would probably get it easily. But every time I do, I get inting teammates, and it makes me want to go Smurf. That's why I have a lot of accounts. And then I play other games, so I don't have a good discipline. So for next season, even though I'm really disappointed, I'm gonna try to hit challenge in 1 month on probably I think NA. Then I'll play to keep top 20 slots in NA. I'll get it on EU West, and I'll try to go to Korea if I don't acquire certain goals, which I think are more personal, because I think it's dumb to state on a video or on stream that if I want to go LCS or become a huge streamer or a YouTube success, I think those things are something that is more personal to me, uh, that I shouldn't talk openly with people, or why I think I should make it big or why I shouldn't make it big. Because that has to do with other people. Because I'm gonna finish the video with one thing. So, Dopa said words have a unique property. That if everyone says something, it becomes that thing. And that is true. So this creates that if people think something, that is their truth, right? Even if they're wrong, that's their truth. So if a player thinks Kassadin beats LeBlanc, even though he should beat LeBlanc, right? It doesn't matter if this is true or not if a player thinks that LeBlanc shits on Kassadin, right? It doesn't matter because no much how you tell this person, he's an idiot. But that's his experience. Maybe every time he sees or plays the matchup, he always sees or he ends up winning on LeBlanc. But he's still an idiot because that is his truth. And you can't change that. So if people tell me I'm not good enough or I'm wrong, I'm not gonna care. Because, like Dopa said, no matter how much I debate or talk with people to see whether they're right or wrong, it won't change how I think about the game. And when I think I can beat any challenger mid or mid in either region, and I wanna go to Korea and challenge myself, that's realistic because I've never lost to a challenger mid laner when I played serious. Why? Because I play serious. If I'm motivated to play, I'm gonna have high CS, I'm gonna outperform that shit player, and I'm gonna think, why the fuck aren't you struggling with bad teams, and why don't I have your LP? Because you're bad. So for next season, I'm just gonna push, and I hope you guys like the parts about, I don't know, Dopa, maybe a bit on my past and frustration. But I hope you liked the first section, maybe 20 minutes, when I talked about mid lane. And I'll see you guys on the next video or stream, because I'm gonna play a bit with a friend for a few hours, and then I'm gonna put up the stream. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys.